Here are 33 facts the media is not telling you about the coming food shortages. Number 1. The wheat crop in the United States this year was the smallest since 1963. Number 2. The upcoming rice harvest in California is projected to be half of what it would be in a normal year. Number 3. This will be the worst U.S. corn harvest we've seen in at least a decade, maybe longer, down 20%. Number 4. The U.S. tomato harvest came in at just 10.5 million tons in 2022, which is over 2 billion pounds lower than average. Year-to-date shipments of carrots in the United States are down 45%, with sweet potatoes down 13%, celery down 11%, peaches down 15%, and we're being warned that there will be crop losses in France of up to 35%. Almost 3/4 of all U.S. farmers say that this year's drought is hurting their harvest. And thanks to the endless drought, the total number of cattle in Oregon is down 41%, New Mexico's down 43%, and Texas is down 50%. One beef producer in Oklahoma is now predicting that ground beef could eventually top $50 per pound, a 10 times increase. 40% of the United States has been suffering from drought conditions for 2 years. Overall, this is the worst multi-year mega drought in the U.S. history, actually in the United States in the last 1,200 years. Europe is currently experiencing the worst drought it's ever seen in 500 years, and some parts of Central Europe, river levels have fallen so low that hunger stones are being revealed for the first time in centuries. Corn production for all of Europe was down 20% last year, and it's being projected that crop losses in some areas of the UK could be as high as 50%. It's being reported there will be crop losses of up to 50% in some parts of Germany as well. Some farmers in Italy have already lost up to 80% of their harvest, and agricultural production in Somalia will be down 80% this year. In Eastern Africa, the endless drought has already resulted in the deaths of at least 7 million animals, and in China, they're facing the worst drought they've experienced in recorded history. India normally accounts for 40% of the global rice trade, but we're being warned that production in that country will be way down due to considerable rainfall deficits in key rice-producing states. A third of the entire nation of Pakistan was underwater after recent floods absolutely devastated that nation, and agricultural areas were hit particularly hard. As a result, the vast majority of the crops in the country have been washed away. The prices of some fertilizers have tripled since 2021, with the prices of other fertilizers actually quadrupling. One payment company is reporting that the number of Americans using their app to take out short-term loans for groceries has risen by 95%. Demand at U.S. food banks is now even worse than it was during the height of the COVID pandemic. The World Health Organization is telling us that millions of people in Africa are now potentially facing a very real possibility of starving to death. According to the World Food Program, 828 million people around the world go to bed hungry each night. Needless to say, that number will soon be much higher. UN Security General Antonio Guterres has publicly stated that he believes that it's likely that there will be multiple famines in 2023. As global food supplies get tighter and tighter, so will the risk of civil unrest. In fact, this has already been happening. The risk of civil unrest has surged this year in more than half of the world's countries, signaling a coming period of heightened global instability, fueled by inflation, war, and shortages of essentials. According to Verisk Maplecroft, a UK-based risk consulting and intelligence firm, 101 of the 198 countries tracked on its civil unrest index saw an increase in their risk of civil unrest between the second and third quarters of this year. In recent weeks, we've seen absolutely massive protests in cities all over the planet, but conditions aren't even that bad yet. So what will things be like when it finally becomes exceedingly clear that there will simply not be enough food for everybody? Wealthy countries will have the resources to buy up much of what's available on the market, meaning that many poor countries will deeply suffer much worse. If everything you've heard in this article sounds familiar, that's because we've actually been warning about it for years, that such conditions are coming. An extremely serious global food crisis has already begun, and I would encourage everyone to get prepared for what is ahead while you still can. I would also encourage you to like and share this video so that more people can get filled in on this information the media is conveniently not addressing.